It's magical. It's everything you hoped for. Hi, beautiful people. I said a hi, beautiful people. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome, 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 everybody. How are you all doing? For those who don't know me, my name is Monty, and I'm just here to add some light and add some magic and just share my life, my past mistakes. If you've never come across one of my videos, please go and check some of my initial videos out and you'll kind of get a gist of what I'm about. Just here to keep it kind of real, be raw, transparent. You're probably thinking, who's this girl who has even bothered to lay down her wig? I can see her lace, and yeah, I know you're judging me. Keep judging me. I judge myself too, but I'm just me and I'm here to be me. So moving on swiftly, let's get into today's video. So let's paint a picture here. This is going to be the context, okay? Just stay with me, I'm going somewhere. So I want you to, if you want, you can close your eyes or just think about something that you could potentially relate to as I paint this picture. You're in your early 20s, let's say, and you meet someone, you're with this person for, let's say, 5 years. Now you're in your late 20s. You're talking about marriage, you're creating that vision, you're building a life together. He proposes, it's the best day of your life, it's magic. You spend the next 6 months planning your dream wedding. Your wedding day comes, it's magical, it's everything you hoped for. You go off to your honeymoon, you return to your home with your husband or wife, if you're a guy watching. And for a while, it's fine. And then, things start to happen. There's cracks in the relationship. Before you know it, it escalates. Things get serious. There's division now. There's distance. You don't even recognize the person you're now laying with every night. Now finances is becoming an issue. That partnership that you once had, you don't have that anymore. You can't even, like I said, recognize the person. Things just keep escalating. Thoughts of separation and divorce keep coming up. And then, boom, there's infidelity. One of you cheats. It comes out, it's found out. That's it. You're over. It's done. You're broken. You're heartbroken. All those hopes, dreams, that vision you had of a life together, those babies that you thought you would have together, that life that you thought that you would have, everything that you've come to know as normal over the last 10 years of your life, from your early 20s now into your early 30s, everything you thought would happen, everywhere you thought you would be, every milestone you thought you would have achieved, absolutely shattered. Now you're having to pack up your stuff, you're having to divide stuff. Some of those wedding gifts you got, that kettle, that processor that you liked, that air fryer, who's gonna get this, who's gonna get that, the things that you invested in, your joint savings. Let's say you have other assets that you're having to divide. Now you have lawyers representing you. It's just a complete and utter mess. You don't even know where you're gonna start from. You're trying to figure out now where you're going to live. This home that you had that was once beautiful, filled with memories, now you're being forced to leave that. Can you afford it? Can you maintain the same lifestyle? Your head is everywhere. You are a mess. You found somewhere, maybe you've moved back to your parents, maybe you've gotten yourself a little apartment, maybe you've gone into a flat share and you've got some roommates. I don't know. You've left the house now. And then you have this great idea. You have this great idea. In the midst of this funk, this mess, this chaos, you're going to date. You're going to get back out there. You're going to get yourself together. You're going to package yourself and you're going to date. That brokenness you feel, that worthlessness that you feel, it's going to be gone. It was his loss. It was her loss. Someone else is going to make you feel all the things that your partner didn't make you feel, that your ex didn't make you feel. You're going to date. That's the great idea you've had. In the midst of this funk, this brokenness, You're not going to address anything. You're not going to heal. You're just going to date. Let's just stew on that for a while. Let's just take a minute. It makes a lot of sense, right? You see, when I put it like that, and even as I was thinking about this, I was like, what was I thinking? What was I thinking? Because now it doesn't even make sense. When I look back at it, like, it doesn't even make sense. And that picture that I painted is not exactly, you know, how things went for me. You know, there's elements of truth in that picture and that story that I told. It wasn't exactly like that. But I had the bright idea 6 months after my separation to start dating. I thought I was going to wait 6 months. If he doesn't come back, if things aren't fixed, if God doesn't wave his magic wand and heal this marriage, I'm done. I'm going to pursue other things. I'm going to date. That feeling of worthlessness, those insecurities, that brokenness, it's going to be filled by another person, other people. I'm not doing that healing thing. I'm not shedding another tear over him. I'm not going to acknowledge the pain, the depths of pain that I feel inside. Instead, what I'm going to do is date. I'm going to date, and I'm going to prove that it was all him. I'm going to prove that it's all him because I'm going to find magical person and magical people, and they're going to make me feel all the things that he didn't make me feel, and then that will prove my point. I was right. And that wasn't my thought process at the time. To be quite honest with you, I don't think I had any type of rational thoughts over my decision making. I was just in the motion, just going with the flow, desperate to just not feel what I was feeling at the time. And you know what's so interesting? What I'm finding more and more is that in the midst of brokenness, after divorce, after separation, after heartbreak, we seem to have this bright idea that the way that it's going to get better is to just get with someone else. And ultimately, we are not taking the time to heal. We're not taking the time to hold the mirror up to ourselves, as painful as it is, and to assess the part that we played in contributing to the end of our relationship. And then what we go and do is mess up other people's sons and daughters. We go and bleed on other people. We go and drag other people into our mess. The biggest mistake that I made after divorce was dating too soon. Like I said, I waited 6 months, and I remember, so we had ended in, it was actually early hours of Boxing Day, 26th of December. By the 25th of January, I had moved out, and I remember I had moved into flat share. I found a room on Christian flat share in a 3-bedroom house with 2 other women. One of the women was the owner, and I'm gonna have to do a story time on that because that was a mess in itself. I've been through a lot. But thank God I don't look like what I've been through, and my life's not like what I've been through. Well, things haven't ended up the way it could have by the grace of God, is what I'm trying to say. But I digress. Back to the point. I remember being in the room. I just moved in on the 25th of January, and I said a prayer to God. And it's funny, I don't think I can even call it prayer. It was more me instructing God and telling him how it's going to be and what my plans are. And I remember talking to God and saying to him, this man has 6 months, because at this point, I'm still in disbelief that we've separated. I'm still in disbelief at everything that's happened. I'm still in disbelief at the fact that at this point we're going our separate ways after 7 years together. So I remember saying, God, I need to see a move within 6 months. And if by 6 months, nothing happens, I'm moving on. And what's significant about this is, you know, as I'm talking about moving on, and just, I'm mentioning these things so that you can see how the enemy works, and how the enemy preys on us in our moments of weakness and vulnerability, and why it's so important in the midst of a trial to just really be on guard and really be switched on and accountable. My ex was my first sexual partner. We waited until marriage, so that's when I became physically intimate. And so now, in the midst of obviously this separation, I can't be physically intimate. And now this is a new struggle, because now I know what sex is. And I'm switched on, and you know, now it's not only nursing my heartache, but also nursing my sexual appetite in that moment. And so I remember saying, God, 6 months and I'm moving on. The contact we had was very minimal, if any, during that time. And so of course that 6 month mark came towards the end of June, and you know, it looked like this is really happening. So any disbelief I had before that like somehow magically God was going to bring us back together and it was just going to be fantastic, it evaporated at that point. And with that realization came an overwhelming amount of pain that I wasn't prepared to deal with, because I was of the belief at that time that he didn't care. We've had zero contact, very minimal contact. He hasn't pursued me. He hasn't, you know, tried to take charge in bringing us back together. That was my mindset. He doesn't care. He's probably off doing whatever he's doing with whoever he's doing it with. And rather than sitting in that, and rather than being honest with people around me that I was struggling with coming to terms with the fact that my marriage is over, I decided that what I was going to do at that point was, I'm moving on, I'm going to date. And so I started to entertain conversations, be in situations that I didn't need to be in. And at first it was just casual. And if I'm brave enough, I'm going to speak to one of those situations in particular, because damn. I can laugh about it now, but it's very embarrassing, but it was a mess. Eventually, after kind of just entertaining casually, I'm like, I'm moving on, and I'm just gonna be open. And in that time, I met some great guys. One in particular I started to date, and we had a short but intense relationship. But it was a big mistake, because number one, I just about filed for divorce, if that. Was just separated, still legally married, still married in God's eyes. So just even going into that is just a mess. But ultimately, I met someone who was ready, willing, for serious commitment, long-term commitment, who fell in love at a time where I was completely broken. And so, like I said, what we end up doing is hurting other people that don't even need to be in our mess. What we end up doing is bleeding on other people that don't deserve to be bled on. And, you know, there's consequences to our actions. It was already a mess. And what I could have done is shielded myself and been in a place where it was all about pursuing my healing. But now I'm having to be accountable for somebody else's hurt, somebody else's pain, because I knew I wasn't ready to commit, or I was very honest about my situation. That's one thing about me. I'm not gonna lie. I'm very, very transparent as a person. So I was very upfront about my current situation. And obviously at that point, it'd been about maybe 8 months into our separation. And so I know there's going to be people that watch this and just think, 8 months is, long enough for healing and blah, blah, blah. And there's going to be people that are okay with, dating while legally married to somebody else. But the way that I live, and the way that I believe that we've been called to live, it's not okay. Maybe 8 months is long enough for you to heal if you've been intentional about your healing journey. I can't put a timestamp on how long it takes you to heal or get over a very serious relationship, a marriage. I can't put a timestamp, and I definitely know that healing is not linear. There's days where you're doing great and you're making progress, and there's other days where you might feel like you're back at square one, you're a mess, you're hurting. But I just know that for me at that point, I hadn't been intentional about my healing journey. And I hadn't put a complete full stop. The divorce wasn't final. We had just about filed, I think. I had no business dating, is all I'm saying. And so this is an encouragement. I really hope, in painting that picture at the beginning, for someone who comes across this, who might be separated, going through a divorce, etc., I really hope the picture I painted at the beginning just causes you to stop and reflect in your tracks for a minute, and that you see that, like, actually, this really doesn't make sense for me right now. There's so much more to figure out, especially when you've been together for a really long time. Coming to grips with the reality of now this grief, because honestly, that's what it is. And I've always described death as like grieving someone who has died, only that they're still alive. Actually, the death is in the life that you thought you were gonna have, and coming to terms with your new normal and the reality of your situation. That takes a lot. And often it takes a lot of time to just really heal, to redefine yourself in many ways, to address the things that you've come to realize that are toxic or unhealthy in terms of how you show up in a relationship, to figure out like what it is that you appreciate in a spouse, again, because it might be very different to what you went for previously, or it might be you might just reaffirm that you want the same kind of qualities, like, who knows. But all of those things take time and discovery, and it takes us being really intentional and purposeful with our healing journey. Please, please, please don't bring anyone else into that mess. Like, the world will tell you that getting under someone is the quickest way to get over someone. Honestly, it does not make sense. Been there, done that. It does not make sense. It doesn't work. It just creates more drama, attachments to people you shouldn't be attached to. Maybe they're even people who are preying on your vulnerability and have no good intentions for you kind of long term. It's a mess. Your body is a temple. Like, the world will tell you that the quickest way is to do all of that, but that void in your heart, that pain that you feel, that brokenness, it can't be fixed by another human being. No. It can't be fixed by that. Much less a fallen, broken, sinful human being. Like, no, that's not the source. That's not going to be the source of the healing. I went on a very long journey after, like, realizing that I'm not ready to commit. Like, I literally freaked out. The guy I was dating, I shouldn't laugh, it's not funny, but the guy I was dating lived in another country, and he started to make plans to relocate. And I think when he started to talk more longer term and started to talk about his intentions, I freaked out. And then I had to have a really honest conversation again, in terms of reminding what I said in the beginning, that I wasn't ready for any kind of serious long-term commitment, and then I had to let him go. And after that, I went on a very interesting healing journey. I made some more mistakes along the way. I'll have to get into kind of, it's a really interesting story and things that I haven't shared, but I'll probably do a part 2 on like kind of what happened after that. But this is just to say, I really hope that if you've stumbled on this by chance and that you're in a situation where you're dealing with heartbreak, that you really take a moment to seek God. You really take a moment to yourself to reflect on whether this is the best time to date. Don't let anyone make you feel like you're only whole if you're attached to another person, if you have bae. You don't need all of that. Let's focus on being happy, healthy, God-filled, kind, compassionate human beings. Like let that be what drives and leads us, and not the need to be attached or in some sort of relationship. I really hope you got something from this message, story time, situation. I don't know what to call it. I just really hope you took something from this. Like, let's discuss in the comments. Like, do you agree with me? Do you disagree? What's been kind of your experience dating after divorce, dating after kind of heartbreak? Let me know. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, beautiful people. See you.